please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back to a Megon 2 Electric Boogaloo. Today I want to look at some tweets from Matt Walsh. Now I'm sure many of you have heard of this individual. For a while now they've been prepping to release a movie titled Am I Racist? A comedy movie. A movie I have of course not seen. I don't go out much. I don't think it's in the UK. If it is, it's definitely not a mainstream thing. Now from what I have heard about it, the entire premise is essentially to prove the point that many who are, I want to say woke, but not woke, right? Many who champion DEI, which is the modern day version of affirmative action, are grifters. There is a point to that, by the way. There are many creators who fall within this sphere, many journalists as well, who have been proven to be disingenuous and only interested in sound bites and less interested in substance. This, to me then, means movies like this are important. However, movies like this, because they go against the grain of what is or is not deemed acceptable, invariably find themselves in a realm of the internet and the real world where people will find a way to shut it down rather than going to watch it. You see, to make people want to see a movie, you need an audience base. You also often require, let's say, the involvement and inclusion of journalists, reviewers who can watch the movie and then give you their honest opinion. As many of you will undoubtedly know, there are in fact places on the internet and in the real world. We have to separate the two. One is the Matrix, right? There is a place in the world where you can look at these reviews from not just official journalists and reviewers, but also the audience. A great example of that would be a place like Rotten Tomatoes. I love Rotten Tomatoes because many movies that have been review bombed have done really well. It's who has review bombed them though that intrigues me. Take for example Captain Marvel. That movie has a fantastic rating from journalists. The fans did not appreciate it. The movie still did incredibly well, but mercifully they realised, well, it turns out we really did back the wrong horse, and when The Marvels came out, it tanked, as it should have. Matt Walsh falls within the category of contentious enough individual that anything he does in the mainstream is going to garner a lot of attention. The majority of it from the mainstream will be negative. The same cannot be said for his Rotten Tomatoes score, where no journalists have seen it at time of recording apparently. Now there's another thing I want to reference here, and that is that a few years back there was a feminist who did a movie on men's rights, or activists, activism, right? She spent time with them, and she realised they're not the enemy that they were being portrayed to be by the mainstream media. When the movie came out, there were people having it shut down, people protesting its very existence. Why? Who knows? They didn't watch it. They just believed because it shone a light in a positive manner on men, this was a bad message, which I'm certain tickled many of you if you were around then and know of this, and it certainly tickled me. Tickles me now in fact as well. Now I have to reference that because this movie did get pulled from a couple cinemas because of similar attitudes and actions from people who have not seen the movie. Wake up, sheeple. I have not seen the movie. I am not going to negatively speak on it because I cannot in good conscience provide an authoritative position on it, other than it being referenced as a comedy, a satirical rip on modern day grifters. It even has a fight scene in it. Why? It's meant to be a documentary, a comedic one at that. Matt Walsh has been tweeting about this for a while, and I want to go through some of those tweets because I think it right to highlight some of the criticism and perspective from Matt Walsh, because I'm going to stand on the hill I've chosen anyway, of absolutist and say, don't judge something until you've seen it. Don't judge something until you've read it, listened to it, taken it in. Do not assume or presume until you know what it really is. Prejudging is a weakness of the human condition, one you need to unlearn. Humanity is a judgy species, and I don't understand how, after so many years, and I can't do this on the main channel, how after so many years, there are still many within my own audience who still don't get you need to understand it for yourself before you assume something, before you believe you can provide a suitable rebuttal, debunking, or correction. The reason this can't go on the main channel is because there are far too many people who watch my content there who do not get this point, and I really wish you would. Not you who are watching here, because chances are you're smarter. You're welcome. Someone's going to get offended by that. Tell me in the comments. I'll be sure to read it. So, let us begin with the tweets.
My daughter's 4 years old. I am an anti-racist educator, quote unquote. She's still watching Disney movies, and she is choosing a white princess over princesses of color.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
My 3-year-old daughter is her favorite princess is Moana.
Love it.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
For the sake of fair use, I have interjected. Yes, Matt Walsh did tweet this video out with, "In my new film, a prominent anti-racist educator gives me devastating news that my 3-year-old daughter might be racist for liking Moana." Let's play a bit more of the clip, just to get the full context.
But then I also thought, there's a little bit of cultural appropriation here. She wants to be Moana for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we navigate that? Do I go and buy the Pacific Islander native attire for my white 3-year-old?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
But I guess what we might call the Moana problem here is what, on one hand, there's cultural appropriation. On the other hand, there's gravitating towards white characters.
Right.
So it's almost like no matter which way you go, you end up back in racism.
Is anyone else getting vibes of Ali G in this awkwardness with interaction? If you can't tell that this by nature is satire, playing on reductio ad absurdum, then I'm impressed. But then those that are typically chronically online do tend to lack a funny bone, or the ability to introspect and laugh at oneself.
We think every space belongs to us because we live in a white supremacist society.
Is America an inherently racist country?
I think the word inherent is challenging there. If we say...
Fundamentally,
yes. America is racist to its bones. All of the...
So inherently.
Yeah.
The fact that in this interview, the ginger nut being spoken to couldn't for a second tell she was being trolled, spoke volumes about the level of professionalism involved. And that's not me now shining praise on Matt Walsh. If you don't like him, that's your thing, right? I know very little about him, but he is, at the moment, with this movie, trying to highlight a key problem, that many people will contradict themselves quite easily when it suits them, and try and play it off as, but in this context, I can do it. But in this context, I can't do this. But I've said it once. I'll say it the same way twice. The second time, though, will mean something completely different. Mental Gymnastics 101. Be sure to warm up those adjectives. We don't want to pull a noun. Now, courtesy of Matt Walsh, we know the woman in the video is Kate Slater, who was speaking out about the film on her Instagram by saying, "Anyway, this piece of poop comes out on Friday, and if you're wondering why I've been off the radar, it's because I have an inbox full of angry white men who are incensed that I don't let my daughter dress as Moana for Halloween." Credit is due here to an extent to Kate, because her involvement in this movie has meant that this movie easily made back the investment required so that it's now in the area of making profit. Movie theatre employees are currently on Reddit plotting ways to prevent their customers from seeing the film. And on movie theatre employees, we have, the subreddit, we have some comments. "I'll be making the transaction as difficult as possible for anyone seeing the Matt Walsh movie. Can you take the good seats out of service without anyone noticing? Only sell the creatures that crawl out of the mud to see this thing, the crap seats." I didn't know that in movie theatres there was such a thing as a crap seat. Maybe I don't think of movies in the same way as others, or we have a higher quality standard here. This one just makes me feel gross having it playing. I can handle God's Not Dead or whatever other Christian movies we have, but this one just feels wrong to have. It's going to be a long couple of days that we have this. We're getting it. We have one manager joke that if we did, he would quit. He might just if he deals with any of their poop. As you can tell, people aren't best impressed. I'm intrigued here because I know, again, Matt Walsh is a contentious individual. Obviously, they identify as a theocratic fascist. It's a joke, but yeah, there's that, right? Now, they did highlight the 99% popcorn meter audience score with over 250 verified ratings. Directly underneath that tweet, even liberals on the box office subreddit are leaving good reviews. Now, these reviews might be from liberals, they might not be. We cannot be too sure, but they all highlight the fact that this is based on a joke. It's very similar to that of Borat. I would say Ali G, but without the language barrier. And I say that knowing that Borat's even worse with the language barrier from the same sodding guy. The Telegraph wrote a review of the movie, calling Matt Walsh the conservative Michael Moore. Matt Walsh said, "Even though Michael Moore is a far-left lunatic, I'm flattered by the comparison. Michael Moore is an interesting movie maker, documentary style anyway. He may be a bit of a lunatic, but it's not the worst thing to be compared to, really, is it? I was expecting Adolf Hitler." Now, I mentioned a movie earlier in the video. I mentioned movie theatres perhaps pulling out of having it shown because people are less interested in seeing it and judging it. They're more interested in just making sure it doesn't see the light of day. Del Oro Theatre. Dear patrons, due to the strong reactions from our community for and against the film and concerns for the well-being of our staff, we will not be playing the film Am I Racist as originally intended. There's a response to this. Pussies! My view will remain the same. If your response is to attack anyone that wants to go and see whatever they want, chances are you're the problem. You really are. If you want to get physical with someone you disagree with, you're the problem. You're often the one that calls everyone else a fascist, yet you will unironically smack them up if you get the chance to. The movie Am I Racist even got a mention in The Hollywood Reporter. Granted, it's not going to beat that of Beetlejuice or Speak No Evil, Killer's Game. Well, it did actually beat that. But the social experiment movie Am I Racist has done quite well so far. Close to $5 million from 1,500 locations. Which isn't bad for a documentary that is considered now the top debut for this year of a documentary. Which is why I believe I had seen somewhere that it is now working in the realm of profit. Congratulations. You can buy yourself a nice shiny Matchbox car. This is confirmed by Noam Chomsky, who said $3 million budget, 4.7 mil at the box office. They made back their investment in 3 days and then some. Expect more conservative documentaries. They took a gamble and paid off big in the end. I've seen Reagan, Am I Racist, and Beetlejuice this month thus far. I would argue Beetlejuice, not Beetlejuice 2, we don't call it that. That is the only movie worth seeing because the juice is loose, and that's the only thing that matters. But I'm not going to judge Reagan or Am I Racist because it's not my place. I am going to judge those that say they won't go and see it because and insert your own confirmation bias here or your own ideology here to make it seem like you know what it is without having actually seen it first. I think it's quite important to actually know what you're doing, right? Now, as far as this video goes, I only wanted to highlight all of this because I found it fascinating that within a realm of not spoken of as much as movies have in the past when it came to pressing ideas that people didn't like the sound of, it's impressive how well this is done in such short space of time. If you want to judge something based on a cover or those involved, chances are you're the one who already has the problem. My view will remain the same. If you can't politely disagree with somebody else for what they believe or what they produce, you're the problem. If you can't go into it with an open mind and you are simply there just to crap on something or prevent others from being able to make an informed decision, you are the very fascist you claim to fight against. Simples.